Claire had never been the type to believe in strange occurrences or gut feelings, but something about the past few months had left her feeling unusually on edge. Ever since her divorce, she had been juggling too many responsibilities at once, balancing a demanding job, maintaining a home, and most importantly, caring for her 6-year-old son, Noah. He was the light of her life, but she couldn't be with him every second of the day, which was why she needed a babysitter she could trust. Finding someone reliable had been harder than she expected, with most of the candidates being either too young, too expensive, or simply not the right fit. Then she met Emily. Emily was perfect. She was in her early 20s, polite, well-spoken, and came highly recommended by a colleague from work. She had experience with children, glowing references, and an immediate warmth that put Claire at ease. More importantly, Noah seemed to like her. He wasn't always comfortable with strangers, but within minutes of meeting Emily, he had already warmed up to her, showing her his favorite toys and chatting as if they had known each other for years. Claire took that as a good sign. The first few weeks went smoothly. Emily arrived on time every day, kept Noah engaged with creative activities, and even tidied up around the house. Claire felt relieved, thinking she had finally found the help she needed. But then small things started to happen. It was nothing alarming at first, just misplaced objects. Her phone wasn't where she left it. A framed photo of her, and Noah was slightly tilted on the shelf. The kitchen cabinets, which she always kept closed, were found half open some mornings. Claire chalked it up to exhaustion. Between work and stress, she was probably just forgetting things. But as the days passed, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. One evening, as she was putting Noah to bed, he whispered something that sent a chill down her spine. "Mom," he said softly, his small hands clutching the blanket. "Why do you talk to Emily at night?" Claire frowned, confused. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Noah blinked sleepily. "I hear you. When I'm in bed, sometimes I hear you and Emily whispering in the kitchen." Claire felt her skin prickle. "Noah, Emily leaves after dinner. She's not here at night." But Noah just yawned and rolled over, as if the conversation didn't mean anything to him. Claire told herself he must have been dreaming. That night, however, she lay awake for hours, her mind replaying his words. Then, just as she was finally drifting off to sleep, she heard something, a soft noise from the baby monitor on her nightstand. Her heart pounded as she reached for it, listening closely. At first, it was just a rustling of blankets as Noah shifted in bed. Then, a whisper, faint, indistinct, coming from his room. Claire sat up, holding her breath. She strained to hear, but the whispering stopped. The house fell silent again. Telling herself she was being paranoid, she forced herself to lie back down. But as she closed her eyes, she couldn't escape the nagging thought that something about Emily, about everything, wasn't right. The next morning, Claire tried to shake off the lingering unease from the night before. She told herself that she was just overreacting, that she was exhausted, stressed, and letting her imagination run wild. But deep down, something about Noah's words stayed with her. When she went to wake him up for school, she decided to ask again. "Noah, sweetheart, about last night, when you said you heard Emily and me talking, are you sure?" Noah sat up, rubbing his sleepy eyes. "Yeah," he said simply. "I hear whispering sometimes." Claire forced a smile. "And you think it's me and Emily?" Noah shrugged, still drowsy. "I don't know. Maybe." Then, without warning, he added, "But sometimes it's him." Claire felt her stomach drop. "Who?" Noah yawned. "My friend." Claire's heartbeat quickened slightly. "Your friend? You mean from school?" Noah shook his head. "No, the one here." Claire froze. "What do you mean here?" Noah blinked at her, looking almost surprised that she didn't understand. "He lives in the house," he said simply, "but only at night." A chill ran through Claire's entire body. She tried to keep her voice light. "Noah, sweetheart, there's no one else living here but us." Noah's little face scrunched up in thought. "Well, Emily says it's okay. She told me some people don't leave even when they're supposed to." Claire felt her breath hitch. "Emily told you that?" Noah nodded. as if it was the most normal thing in the world. She said not to be scared, that he just watches. Claire felt ice crawl up her spine. She tried to keep her expression neutral, but her mind was racing. Why would Emily say something like that? Was it just an innocent comment taken out of context? Or was there something else going on? That evening, when Emily arrived, Claire kept a close eye on her. She noticed small things she hadn't paid attention to before. The way Emily always seemed to know exactly where things were in the house, even though she had only been working there for a few weeks. The way she never seemed startled by noises, no matter how sudden or unexpected. At dinner, Claire decided to bring up Noah's friend casually, watching for Emily's reaction. "Noah has been talking about someone new," she said lightly. "He says there's a boy in the house." Emily, who had been setting down Noah's plate, paused for just a fraction of a second. It was quick, barely noticeable, but Claire caught it. Then Emily laughed, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Oh, yeah, he mentioned that to me too," she said, smiling. "Kids have such vivid imaginations." Claire forced a smile. "Right." But something about Emily's reaction felt wrong. Later that night, Claire tucked Noah into bed, double-checking his window locks before turning on his nightlight. "If you ever get scared, you call for me, okay?" she told him. Noah just nodded sleepily. "I won't be scared. He never hurts me." Claire's stomach twisted. "Who?" Noah didn't answer. He was already drifting off to sleep. Claire barely slept that night, because now, for the first time, she wasn't just worried about Noah's imagination. She was worried about Emily. Claire couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that something was wrong. Emily's presence in the house had started to feel intrusive, as if she wasn't just a babysitter. But something more than that. The way she moved through the house too comfortably, the way she spoke to Noah with too much familiarity, and the way Noah talked about his friend, as if it were a real person, all of it felt wrong. That night, after putting Noah to bed, Claire made a decision. If there was nothing going on, then she had nothing to worry about. But if there was something she needed to know, Emily had already left the night, so Claire retrieved a small security camera from her office, one she had bought months ago, but never installed. She placed it discreetly in Noah's room, positioning it in a corner near his bookshelf where it wouldn't be noticed. If Noah was talking in his sleep, if there were noises or anything unusual happening at night, she would see it. The next morning, after dropping Noah off at school, Claire sat down with her laptop and pulled up the footage. She told herself she wouldn't find anything, that she was overreacting. But as soon as she saw the first clip, her stomach turned to ice. At 2:43 a.m., Noah sat up in bed. His body was stiff, his head slightly tilted, as if he were listening to something. His lips moved, but Claire couldn't hear what he was saying. Then, after nearly a full minute of whispering, he turned to the empty corner of the room and nodded. Claire's breath caught in her throat. Then at 2:46 a.m., the bedroom door opened slowly. Emily walked in. Claire froze. Her mind raced. Emily had left hours ago. The front door had been locked. So how was she inside the house? Claire rewound the footage, scanning for an answer, and then she saw it. At 10:07 p.m., shortly after Claire had put Noah to bed, Emily had entered the laundry room instead of leaving through the front door, and she never came out. Claire's hands trembled as she put the pieces together. Emily hadn't left the house when Claire thought she did. She had been hiding somewhere inside for hours, waiting until the house was quiet. Her stomach churned. Why? Why would Emily do that? What was she trying to accomplish? The footage continued playing. Emily stood next to Noah's bed, just watching him. Her posture was unnatural, too still, too deliberate. For nearly 3 minutes, she just stood there. Then, just as slowly, she turned and walked out, closing the door behind her. Claire's pulse pounded. Emily had been in the house all night, and Claire hadn't known. This wasn't just a clingy babysitter. This was something else. Something dangerous. Claire's hands were still shaking as she shut her laptop. The footage of Emily sneaking into the laundry room and staying hidden for hours replayed in her mind over and over. This wasn't just weird behavior. This was planned. Emily had stayed in the house on purpose, and she had gone into Noah's room for a reason. Claire couldn't just let this go. She grabbed her phone and started digging. If Emily had done this before, there had to be signs. She searched Emily's name online. At first, nothing unusual came up, just old job listings, a few harmless social media posts. But when Claire cross-referenced her with the last family she had worked for, the Carters, something stood out. The Carters had left town suddenly. Claire had already heard this from a police officer, but now she found something new. A community forum post from a former neighbor. She clicked on it. The post was over a year old. Does anyone remember the Carters? Their son, Dylan, was in my daughter's class. They moved out of nowhere, and their house sat empty for months. I ran into Mrs. Carter once before they left, and she looked terrified. She wouldn't say much, but she did mention something about their babysitter acting off. Said she was too attached to Dylan, that she knew things about their family that they never told her. Anyone know what happened? Claire's stomach churned. Emily had done this before. She went back to the police report, reading every detail she could find. Dylan Carter, 6 years old, had started talking about an imaginary friend, a friend that Emily encouraged. Just like Noah, Claire's breath hitched. Emily wasn't just a babysitter who got too attached. She was creating something. She was making these kids dependent on her. She encouraged their imaginary friends. She made them feel like only she understood them. And the parents? They were the problem. The ones getting in the way. Claire's fingers curled into fists. Noah had told her exactly what was happening, and she hadn't seen it. Emily said my friend was just trying to help. He told me Emily should be my mom, not you. Claire's vision blurred with rage. Emily hadn't just manipulated Noah. She had tried to replace her. Claire slammed her laptop shut. She wasn't letting this continue. Emily was leaving tonight. And this time, Claire wasn't going to let her get away with her games. Claire spent the entire day with her stomach in knots. The footage of Emily sneaking into Noah's room played on a loop in her mind. No more doubts. No more second-guessing. Emily needed to go. But Claire didn't want her simply out of the house. She wanted answers. That evening, Emily was finishing cleaning up after dinner, preparing to leave, when Claire blocked her path. "We need to talk," Claire said, keeping her voice calm but firm. Emily's smile faltered slightly. "Sure. Is everything okay?" Claire took a deep breath. "Last night, you didn't leave when I thought you did. You were inside my house. I have you on camera." Emily's face went pale. For a moment, she didn't say a word. Then she smiled. Not the kind of smile that put people at ease. The kind of smile that made Claire's stomach twist. "I was just checking on Noah," Emily said softly. Claire's hands clenched into fists. "At 2 a.m, after hiding in my laundry room for hours?" Emily's expression darkened. "He gets scared at night." Claire's blood ran cold. Emily took a slow step forward. "He talks to me about it, about his friend. He trusts me." Claire's stomach twisted. "Noah's friend," she said carefully, "isn't real." Emily tilted her head slightly. "That's what you think," she murmured. Claire fought the urge to shudder. "You need to leave." Emily's jaw tightened. "You don't understand what you're doing." "No," Claire snapped. "You don't understand. If you ever come near my son again, I will call the police." Emily held her gaze for a long moment. Then, finally, she turned and walked away. The moment the door closed behind her, Claire locked it. Her hands trembled. She knew this wasn't over. And she was right. That night, Claire hardly slept. Even though Emily was gone, her words lingered. "You don't understand what you're doing." Claire's instincts screamed that Emily hadn't been lying. She had been manipulating Noah. The next morning, Claire sat Noah down at the kitchen table. "Sweetheart," she said gently, "tell me more about your friend." Noah hesitated. "I'm not supposed to." Claire's stomach tightened. "Who told you that?" Noah lowered his eyes. "Emily." A wave of dread crashed over her. She said he gets upset when people talk about him too much. Claire forced a smile, though her hands were shaking. "Baby, listen to me. There is no friend. Emily was telling you stories. She wanted you to believe in something that isn't real." Noah frowned, but He told me Emily is my real mom. Claire's blood turned to ice. Her breath caught as she stared at her son. What did you say? Noah played with his fingers, avoiding her gaze. Emily said my friend was just trying to help. He told me Emily should be my mom, not you. That Emily loves me more. Claire's hand shook. She forced herself to stay calm. This was what Emily had been doing all along. She had been manipulating Noah, getting inside his head. The friend wasn't real. It was Emily. She had created an imaginary figure to isolate him, to control him. Claire wasted no time. She went straight to the police and filed a restraining order. She contacted Noah's school, ensuring Emily could never get near him. She changed all the locks in the house. And just like that, Emily was gone. Weeks passed, and life slowly returned to normal. Noah stopped talking about his friend. The feeling of being watched faded, but Claire never truly relaxed, because deep down she knew Emily hadn't wanted to be a babysitter. She had wanted to be a mother, and Claire had gotten in the way.